You may have seen devices like this or this in a special education classroom or being used by a speech and language pathologist. You may have also seen them being used by a person out in the community. Well, these are called Augmentative Alternative Communication devices. Let's talk about a few different types and what you can do to help support students who use them at your school. All About AAC. So what is AAC? Well, again, we said these are Augmentative Alternative Communication devices. And what do? Well, they increase independence because they allow students to communicate. The use of an AAC device often replaces or reduces maladaptive behaviors. And this is due to a student being so frustrated because they can't communicate effectively their wants and needs. AAC also increases social connections because they can talk to people, and it expands their access to education and vocational opportunities. Using a low-tech AAC device has many pros, biggest of which is they're very inexpensive to make. They're very easily accessible and they're tangible and multisensory because they're very hands-on. They're also very good for beginning communicators. Using a few relevant pictures or core words that relate to an activity is simple and it doesn't overwhelm the user with a lot of options. There are some cons to low-tech AAC devices. They can be tedious to make. You have to find relevant pictures or icons, print them out, cut them into squares or pieces, and often laminate them for durable use. Magnets or Velcro are often used, so it can take some time to gather up all the materials to make them. After the low-tech setup is made, the icons can be lost easily or even torn up and thrown away. And they're not as dynamic as high-tech systems, and that if you want more vocabulary, now you're back to getting more pictures and preparing a whole new setup. Here's an example of a low-tech choice board. This woman printed out some icons, laminated them, and put them on magnets, and then just used a sheet pan. She can easily switch off the icons. It's portable, very cost-effective. In this example, this teacher used Google Slides to make a choice board. And in this example, she used it for the choosing of an audiobook. The same process could go into making icons or pictures for communication. And this could be used and loaded on a tablet or an interactive panel, or even printed off on paper and laminated. Some of the pros or benefits to using high-tech AAC devices are that they're flexible and they have a large vocabulary list that are pre-programmed, and it's easy to add your own words and pictures electronically. The interactive display is a benefit in that many mimic tablets or are used specifically on tablets or computers. High-tech devices are very easy to customize with different layouts and, again, pictures and vocabulary. And the main benefit for many high-tech AAC devices is voice output. When they're used, the device speaks for the student. The cons of AAC devices that are high-tech are that they are expensive. There are some cheaper apps out there with limited applications, but usually the quality apps start at around $50 for a tablet, and if you're getting it on a computer, it can be a few $100s, and if you're getting devices, especially those with eye control and head control, can run in the thousands of dollars. Another con of high-tech devices is that they are electronic, so you have to worry about batteries, where to plug it in, maintenance, and keeping the software updated, and they are fragile. If you happen to drop it, or the student loses it, or the student gets upset and breaks the device, that's a problem. And another main con for high-tech devices is that they can be confusing to program. Although many of the programs do come pre-made, the navigation and customizing usually takes a lot of steps. There are plenty of tutorials and YouTube videos on how to do it though, so there are resources out there to help. This is a good and common example of a high-tech AAC device, the Tobii Dynavox. What you see here is a whole dedicated device with a touchscreen, camera, and eye retina tracker. The student has the option to touch each section that they'd like to say or use their eyes, and the computer will recognize where their retinas are focusing on. And as they focus on it, it will say the word or phrase that they wish. Now, as you can see with this layout, there is a variety of things that they can say, and different buttons will do different things, such as the green section when you press on or indicate on one, expands into other options so you can be more specific in what you're trying to say. This layout can be confusing and overwhelming, not only for the student or user, but also for the teacher in learning the ins and outs of how it works. With this many options, it's important to use it with a student or person who's cognitively capable of handling this many options. And there is a way to simplify it and limit the choices of what's on the screen. So with many of the students I've worked with, I've simplified the layout to only give a few choices, especially in the beginning. All you have to do is click on the gear icon right here. You can then adjust the buttons, pages, page set to a certain grid size. So for many of my students, we work with a 1x2 or 2x2 grid. So as you can see with this, it's very much simplified, but it very much limits the amount of words on the page. But the good thing about high-tech AAC is you can customize those most important words or phrases. I'll include a link in the description below of this PDF that includes a whole game plan for core vocabulary and high-frequency words and a sequence of how to introduce them, especially for beginning communicators. A big asset in setting this up will be your speech and language pathologist that can help guide you and give you a game plan. You might be the technical support person, but they'll be your language support person in making the most effective AAC for your student. There's a lot that goes into choosing the right system for a student who needs an AAC device. If you look in the description below, I've included some links for you to investigate and look at the whole process. And this usually includes a speech and language pathologist, sometimes a special education teacher, and a physical or occupational therapist, as well as even a doctor. Of course, the parent is included, and this also usually involves an IEP team meeting. But the factors to consider are the student's requisite skills. Does the student have muscle control to push buttons? If they have limited dexterity or physical skills, are they able to move their head? Do they have eye control for an eye gaze device? Does the data, so far as their testing and performance, support the use of an AAC device to improve their performance and help their social skills? Is the device preferred by the student? A student might prefer a low-tech device where they can tangibly touch it rather than looking at a screen. And considering, is this a long-term solution? Will the student use this primarily for their main mode of communication? And there could be other factors that affect the choosing of a system. Does the student have problems or difficulties with behavior? Will the student use the system for stimming, meaning will they access it for visual or audio stimulation, or will they use it for the primary purpose, which is communication? Will they use the device in an over-selecting manner, meaning choosing the same option over and over again, without using it for total communication? So AAC is a way of communication for a person that does not have the ability to speak or write. It can range from printed pictures all the way up to a computer program or device. It could be temporary or used in specific or certain locations or environments, or it could be the person's primary mode of communication. The factors that go into choosing what's best does not always mean the most high tech, but the most important thing is that person or student is able to communicate their wants and needs just like everyone else.